Greetings and welcome to Youth Perspective, an interactive show that speaks to the youth about some of the challenges they are facing. One of these challenges is black tax. This is the extra money that black professionals are coughing out every month to support their extended families. Black tax is an informal term for sharing your salary with your family to make sure that everyone is well taken care of. But what does this mean for the young black professional? My name is Masichamba Dlamini, and with me, I have a panel to help me unpack this issue. We are also joined in studio by a live audience. Greetings to you, panel. If we just have everybody introduce themselves, please.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Bangi Makopo.
All right. Hi, Tiamo.
I'm Batabile.
Moby Dixon.
Hi, and we do have a very lively audience with us. Just to start with our discussion today, our topic is very heavy. It has a lot of components to it. True. Just to start with you, Ndagda Refilwe, as a person who's the generation before us, what would you say black tax is exactly?
Okay, Eric Thomason. I think in an understanding according to the modern time what black tax is, but I have a problem with the word black tax, which then I would love other people maybe to elaborate, then we'll deliberate, because you said today we have limited time. But I just want people to understand I have a problem with the issue of black tax, the term black.
All right, Bangi?
How short must I be? So my understanding of black tax is, it's not really, I heard you say extra money. It's not really extra money. It's money that one is willing to sacrifice. You know, because black professionals will earn X amount of money and sacrifice certain things for themselves so that their family can be fine. Like maybe, for example, not move out, not buy a house. Not buy a car, or do certain things because I'm inheriting mom's debt, I'm inheriting dad's debt, or I'm just inheriting my siblings. Because parents are not working. Maybe one of the parents are not working, so I got younger siblings that need to go to school. Who needs to pay for that?
All right. Yeah. And then, Tiamo, just to bring into the conversation, do you think, like Bangi said, this is something that a young black person is willing to do, or do you think they are forced to do it? It's basically, even if they're not forced per se, but they feel that heavy burden of responsibility to adhere.
My perspective is that black tax is in fact a livelihood and not really something you decide to go into or something you have much option in. In my experience, since I'm living black tax as it is now, I wasn't brought into it, it wasn't a decision, it's just something that just fell onto my shoulders that I had to just live with. So I see black tax as a livelihood more than it is a decision or a choice.
Very punchy. Batabile?
I agree with what Tiamo had just said, because black tax is actually something that is generational because of the system of apartheid. We have certain things that have been passed down from generation to generation. So as a young millennial, you are kind of forced or placed in this position where you have to take care of your parents and you have to take care of your granny, your cousins. They look to you. It's not something you want to do, because you want to live a certain type of lifestyle, but you can't because you have other obligations at home.
Moby?
Yeah, I think it is very much generational, and like Undata said, the way it's being termed as stigmatized in some instances it's being put as a bad thing, whereas, it all depends on the background, if you come from a family that can afford to do their own things and whatnot, you're not forced to do it, but whereas if the situation is bad at home, obviously as someone who's being brought in the world by these people, you kind of feel obligated or are obligated to go back and assist, but it's being kind of stereotyped and put in a bad light. Yeah.
All right. To come back to you, Ndadi, would you say the term black tax is wrong, but we still have that sort of responsibility back home? Is your problem so much the responsibility and the context, or the black tax term?
I think, like I said, first starting with the terminology itself, black tax. It portrays a negative image or anything about that. I mean, taxing is everywhere. It happens to everybody. Then why term it black? Can't we have another better way instead of black? Look, doesn't it happen to white people? Does it happen to Chinese people? I think it happened across the world. Then for us, it's termed black. Example, Black Sunday, Black Friday. There's too much negativity around that, and we have to sit here and accept it as a black tax. You know, from an African perspective, we don't see it as tax, probably most of us, because there are issues that is involved in this whole thing.
Yeah.
Look, I'm going to make an example for an example. People who say black tax. Did you know that in Africa we did not have old age homes? You know why? We took care of our own. Because there's wisdom to get from the old person. It was always a question. Our culture looked at it from that perspective. It happens in America, this black tax. There's taxation. When I live in Ababa, parents, their parents who stay with their children. Is it called tax? No. Is it called a yellow tax? Is it called a white tax? Is there such thing as a white tax? If there is no such thing as white tax, why do we have black tax?
Understood. Do we have anybody from the audience who would just like to add to our discussion?
My name, once again, is Bonang Marema. I think black tax describes the deeper societal level of discrimination and the continued inequalities in the society that the South Africans are still facing. It's not necessarily a bad thing as opposed to, or as compared to Black Friday. Black Friday, if you go into the history, you'll find some serious problems in there. But if you look at the context of the Twitterists, for example, or the technocrats, black tax, they trying to, it's just us not seeing the good that it brings about, that these injustices that has happened before, that forces one middle-class person to support the siblings, support the family, the extended family. It's not necessarily bad. Actually, I'm proud of black tax. I need to know. There's always this song that says, "Ekaya ba jonge kuwe." My siblings are looking up to me, and if I die today, trust me, 10, 4, 5, 6, 7 people are going to suffer, and a whole lot more. So black tax is something that we can celebrate as South Africans. It's something that we can embrace, as opposed to this Black Friday, where black people were sold on a certain or particular Friday. That I do not celebrate, and that I do not buy. But as of black tax, I support. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. But Habile, I'd just like to ask you this. Do you think it holds a black professional back?
I think it definitely does, because compared to other compared to professionals from other races, they're more likely to not experience the black tax that we go through, or not to that extent. So they're able to advance quicker in their careers. They're able to use their money towards maybe buying a house, buying a car, whereas you are still set back because you have 10 mouths to feed at home. And when do you get to the point where you can buy your own house, buy your own car? So it does hold you back in that way.
Dede?
Mewak, I'm going to go back again to the issue of the word black tax. There's tax that we pay from the government. Sharp. It's tax.
It's tax.
Now, the issue of one raise Ubuntu. African perspective, there's something called Ubuntu. I am what I am because of who you are. And we are together in good or whatsoever. If a child is blessed, Atlala a role to the siblings high, to the parents high. Why call it tax? Look, this thing is happening in America. It's happening in all the countries. You know what do they term it? They call it the sandwich generation. Why sandwich? Because whoever is blessed is in the middle of supporting the elders and the young. Nice term. We are subject to black tax. Why black tax? Look, what color is this? White. What color is this?
Black.
Is it equal to my skin? Why black tax?
And then, Bangi, this term seems too rough that they up, especially because of the black in it.
Yeah.
Do you think it would be better if it had another term?
To be honest with you, no. Because at the end of the day, it affects us, whether you term it in a certain way or not. For instance, his example, if we go further up north into Africa, I can point out a few Africans who are dark-skinned, as black as that, because they have a lot of melanin, right? Is it melanin? No, they have a lot of that. So, I mean, that's a good thing. So, in any case, for me, I don't think it matters how we term it, but it affects us. And the question is, how do we counteract how it affects us? For example, Batabile mentioned apartheid. And if we go all the way back to how we were living, Africans were farmers, right, before the Western world came in. When the Western world came in, we were forced to move and work in the mines and work in the cities and send money back home. But then the Western world was able to set up systems that benefited them and their generations. But we haven't been able to do that after 147 years of slavery and apartheid. We're literally starting from 1994 to start investing. But how do we invest when our history is so, it's like...
dilapidated.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's really difficult. So for instance, okay.
All right, just to bring in Moby, right? Well known, people think he's reeking it in.
Yeah.
What's the experience like going home? Is everybody like, please buy me? Oh my God, can you just, What's your experience with that in relation to black tax?
Yeah, it gets really challenging because as soon as you're in the public eye and, people have certain expectations or they start doing their own maths about how much you're worth and whatnot and expect certain things. From my own experience, I've been fortunate where my parents went through the black tax like heavily, and so that my generation now is not feeling it. They worked really hard to kind of make up for the past and fix things and do things for my grandparents and for the rest of the family, so and gave us an education, so that now when I've come in now and start making money for myself, I'm not in a position where now I have to start taking care of them. So I think it's a generational thing, which as generations go, I think there would be less pressure. But being in the public eye, it doesn't help because still you get now your cousins and distant cousins now coming in, whereas if I was an ordinary person, they wouldn't expect anything from me. All I would have to be taking care of was my immediate family, But now, just because they think, no, he can afford it and I can ask him, yeah.
We see you. You don't pay black tax.
Extra money.
He's got that extra money. Date?
Osmas Chava, I wish to be understood clearly. I don't have a problem with our government or institution to kupar tax, but I have a problem with the issue, black tax. And here's my understanding. There's an understanding where Chinese people are called black and whatsoever. But if you go to a Chinese person and what would you label? I'm neither black nor white. I'm Chinese. All right? Because there's an issue where they want to call them the yellow people. They don't want to be called yellow people. All right? They want to be called Chinese. Why do they want to be called Chinese? Because they come from China. You identify them as China people. What's wrong with us Africans? We're Africans. No, African tax, if you want to call it, maybe it's fine. But black tax is a derogatory term. It's not right for me. I can tell you, do research and find out from law. If you allow me just a second, I need to read something that will probably make sense, trying to answer some of the questions that they're being said here. There's a gentleman in the years gone by called Lord Macaulay. He wrote a letter. He said, I have traveled across the length and breadth of Africa, and I have not seen one person who is a beggar, who is a thief, and then he says, such wealth. I have seen in this country because what country, Africa as a whole, as one, he says country. Now, he then continues to say, such high moral values, people of such caliber, that I do not think we could ever be able to conquer this country. Then he goes on, he says, unless we break the very backbone of their nation, which is a spiritual and cultural heritage. You see, the cultural heritage, Ubuntu, that is what I'm talking about. You always take care of each other, and we have systems that way in place. Because we don't if our culture has been told by people who don't understand it, because this has to do with issues of culture. You understand? So I think it's key to address things the right way.
With graduating into being a geologist, for argument's sake, the next generation graduates into being a doctor. My understanding that it would phase off at some point. Does anybody feel that way?
Thank you. My name is Matt from Alex. I think whilst it's a good thing indeed to take care of the people that are closest to you, what is also of importance, according to me, is that at some point you need to then do away with that and do your own thing. Because at the end of the day, you have your own life and you'd have to obviously build a family of your own as well. But if you keep paying or supporting other people that are closest to you, and you are actually regressing instead of really progressing. So I want to believe that there has to be a limit somewhere down the line that I have done my part and I've done enough, then I've got to move on and do what I feel would actually make me progress in my life. Thank you.
Thank you so much. But Tabile, you look like you wanted to add something there.
Oh, I just wanted to add the point. We need to make a distinction between taking care of your family and entitlement. Because while black tax is a thing, there are some family members or people who become entitled to your money. And that's a huge difference between you helping them get to a certain point so that they can eventually help themselves and them being like, no, you have to because you can. There's a huge difference between that.
Yeah, and I think that the word tax in it
It's heavy.
is heavy in it. Besides the blackness, the word tax, because tax in it is an obligation.
Yeah, it's something you don't even have control over. You need to do it.
It's the law, you know. So I think the problem starts there in the mentality in the people that it's an obligation because it's tax. You have to. Yeah.
Tiamo, as a young person?
As I would actually like to make a point to Ubaba Lana, saying that black tax has been stigmatized. Well, we're not necessarily saying it's not race specific, but if you look at the statistics, that Caucasian South Africans are not at all affected by the tax because they have generational wealth. So in the sense whereby a white child's mother or grandparents are unemployed and he has younger siblings to take care of, it wouldn't be a problem because he was blessed with great wealth. And as opposed to a black child where there's nothing there, you know? We don't have wealth of our own. All we have is siblings to feed and our parents to take care of, in my case, as well. And I feel like with regards to black tax, it also promotes complacency, as one studio audience member said that we should celebrate it. Not entirely, because it promotes complacency. As I've been looking out for my family for the past 3 years, in that 3 years, nothing has changed. It's been the same since, up until today, it's still the same thing. So I feel like it promotes complacency, which I don't completely agree with. So I don't think it's something we can celebrate. It's something that we should really look into in depth, really.
So from our panel, would you say there is white tax? Do you strongly believe there is a white young professional who's working hard to support siblings, mother, father?
Thank you. We're having this discussion before we started. So I'm sure. I mean, not every white person is rich and
generational
wealthy,
wealth,
right? Just like not every black person is poor. But when we look at the majority and the numbers, there are more, not rich, but more well-off white people than there are poor ones. You know, for instance, a white person would, let me look at, when I go back when I was in high school, I went to school with some white people, and I was fortunate enough that my parents sacrificed. And so white people would go on holiday to, let's say, not just Durban, but they'll go to Margate. You know what I mean? It wasn't not the richest white person, you know, but they go to Margate. They're able to experience certain things from a younger age, and that's because they don't have to plow into their savings, into their money, and give back to their grandparents, whoever who have saved up money for them. You know, they don't have to pay off houses. They don't have to pay off so many things, unlike us, where we end up paying off houses. Our parents actually pay houses off for 20 years, then extend the bond. You know, and extend the bond, and that's the general. I guess, rule amongst black people. You know, that's my view.
Moby, white tax?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's there. Like you're saying, it's a ratio thing, you know, where in the black community there are more underprivileged or more poorer people where, as compared to the white community, you know. But surely, I would like to think there are some white people who aren't having it as good as other white people who go through the same thing. But the majority is well off because they've been privileged in the past, the historical past, you know, that's got an advantage for them. Yeah.
Just to add on to what everyone's been saying, it's not to say that poor white people don't exist. It's just to say that your life as a white person is not, it can be hard, but it's not hard because you're white. Basically.
Okay. Park that thought. Park that thought.
I think I'm answered. Your life as a white person is not as hard as black. I think I'm answered. I think it is racial, the issue of black, white, tax, whatever that is. I'm a pessimist here. I've made a suggestion to show her, yes, I understand what we're discussing here. I made a request, if it's okay, to say, why don't we term it the sandwich generation tax? And I've explained why the sandwich. Because you are this middle-class black person who you are blessed because of you worked hard, whatever. But somebody started you there. I was all rich. Your parents played a role.
Yes.
Your sibling helped in whatever that, if you were a child, they played a role. So you're in the middle. It's a sandwich. It has nothing to do with color. The sandwich generation tax.
No tax.
You understand what I'm saying? So once you start saying black, and let's not fool ourselves here. Most of the time, the term black is associated with negativity. Anything black is bad. Anything white is right. So let's run away from such things. Why is our culture always in question? As Africans, we termed black, black this, black. Please, guys, let's wake up and smell the coffee. Let's be realistic when we discuss things.
Thank you.
Just one point, right? So there's an issue with the word black tax, right? But now, who's the most oppressed race in the whole world? The African.
We're oppressing ourselves by admitting these things.
The most oppressed
We're
race.
playing a role ourselves. Tell them we're Africans, simple, and we start to begin to look at the cause.
Okay, fine. The most oppressed group, or the African group, right?
Better.
Also known as black or white or Caucasians, semantics. But for me, is that in majority, black people or Africans have been oppressed the most throughout the entire world. So I get it. Yes, there are some Chinese people wherever in China and Asia who also give back. But in general, the whole continent suffers from the same thing. And in other countries where those same Africans were taken from this continent to other continents are suffering from the very same thing, being oppressed in their foreign lands.
Right. Moby, you seem to have a problem, not obviously with black, but your issue is tax.
The tax, yes.
You just think that term just says you're forced. You don't have a choice.
Yeah. For me, it's like it's being forced on you, which I have a problem with, And maybe I'm speaking from, from my own point of view, from a privileged point of view. Because like I said earlier, my parents even made it clear that we are working hard. We are doing all of this for everyone, so you don't have to do what we had to do, So it's not forced about you. Whatever you can do for whoever in the family. But we are curbing that it's an obligation to you, Yeah.
Tiamo, you've mentioned that you are taking care of your family. Going back to my question earlier on, do you think we'll ever get rid of it totally? Do you think your siblings will grow up and say, okay, Tiamo did A, B, and C. We are going to make sure that our children and Tiama's children do not go through this and it will be totally eradicated?
Most likely not, because as I did say earlier, that it breeds complacency among our parents and the older generation. So my guess is that why bother when you have your grandchild taking care of you? I mean, at the end of the month, your grandchild will be back with their salary to come in, whatever, You can. So I don't think that we'll get to a place whereby black tax is completely eradicated. For as long as there's still that thought of complacency and what was the other word that you used again? Entitlement, and a sense of entitlement.
Yeah, you can.
Mommy, so tell me, you mentioned that you come from a point of privilege, right? A place of privilege. So let's say and your one issue is that tax, it seems forced, it's law. So let's say your parents couldn't pay off the house and they couldn't buy themselves groceries. Do you not think that you'd be forced emotionally to actually take care of your parents?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, but it's not an obligation. It's not that you're being forced, but you would want to do it out of your goodness of your heart.
The letter comes from the bank. No, the letter comes from the bank and it says, we are now going to sell this house.
But any child would do that for the
I'll
parents.
be the first to jump at it.
Yeah.
Purely because of the fact that my whole life, they've never asked for anything from me. Yeah.
All right, so closing remarks from everybody. Let's start with Ntate, taking it down the line.
Okay. Quote the person that I wanted to quote it. This gentleman says, many people, especially ignorant people, want to punish you for speaking the truth, for being correct, for being you. Never apologize for being correct or for being years ahead of your time. If you are right and you know it, speak your mind. Even if you are a minority of one, the truth still remains the truth. Mahatma Gandhi.
There's a question you asked Tiamu about, can it be eradicated? Yes, I believe it can be eradicated. The only way black tax can be eradicated is that if we stop becoming consumers of goods and services that we don't really need, and we start saving now and start thinking about the next 2 or 3 generations and start making those sacrifices now. Let's not buy the designer brands, let's not buy the nice cars, let's not buy this big house, but let's put our money in investing and leaving something for the generation to come.
Something, adding on to his point, something that I feel would also aid in eradicating black tax is we need to eliminate the sense of entitlement, and we need to eliminate complacency as a whole. Like, take responsibility. You're a parent, you brought kids into this world, it should be your responsibility to put food in their mouths, not the other way around.
I think black tax maybe can be eradicated, but it's a symptom of a destructive system which seeks to oppress a certain group of people. So in order for black tax to be eradicated, we'd have to eradicate the system itself. Otherwise, we're just going to keep reproducing the same social ills we see today.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it definitely can, you know. And like I said earlier, I'm living proof, you know. My parents made sure that it does not get passed on to me. And hence, I don't see me ever doing it to my children and henceforth after my generation. You know, so if we started taking it upon ourselves, you know, to change things, and then it definitely can, you know. Unfortunately, the previous generations were oppressed because of apartheid and our history, but let's take it upon our hands now to change it and change the mindset and not let people feel like we have to pay tax twice.
While some call it giving back, others call it a burden. One thing is for sure though, no one wants to see their family suffer, especially if they can lend a helping hand. For myself and the team behind the scenes, thank you for watching. See you next time.